So I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
All right. Well, you introduce them and we'll go.
All right. Well, let's wait a minute here because we just went live. Let's wait 30 seconds or so, and then we'll get after it. And I cannot wait. Oh,
it's the best coffee there is.
It smells so good. Double chocolate.
He likes the
chocolate.
So I'm all about the coffee, Jim.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff.
I love coffee. I do a morning show here in Toledo, and I get up at 3:10 every day.
Oh my goodness.
Sam, I already have the coffee brewing.
Okay.
I cannot wait to try this.
You're going to love this.
Although tomorrow I get to sleep in until about 6.
Nice.
But this will be in my coffee pot tomorrow. So.
There you go. Good stuff. Well, then when you wake up later, you can have it in a nice, relaxing, enjoyable cup. And that's what it's all about.
Yes. That's me. I'm all about relaxing, especially on the weekend.
All right.
Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
All right. I'll start it. I'll introduce you. You can introduce our guest, and then we'll go wherever this takes us.
Perfect.
All right. Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen. Good Health by Claudia podcast, episode number 6, a production of Denny Radio.
Yes.
This, of course, is Claudia. I am Denny. And if you have any comments or questions while we're doing this on Facebook Live, put in your comments. We'll see them, and we will answer them throughout our Facebook Live. So let's get started. Claudia, introduce today's guest.
So this is my dear friend, Jim Cannell, right?
Yep, absolutely. You got it right.
Flannel, like flannel.
Like flannel, yes.
Yeah.
And we're so happy you're here. Thank you so much. You started your company in 1996, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And I think you and I met at a trade show a year or two after you started your company.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
I was so thrilled to talk with you and find out what you were doing with your coffee and how it's being grown all over the world. And what really, really impressed me was the give back projects that you have done over the years, because it's really important to me in our store to work with companies that aren't just taking. I love the ones that are giving back.
Yeah.
And you have done some amazing projects. So first I'd like to start with, let's talk about why it's so important to drink coffee that is free of pesticides and all these other things. So if you would start there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much for having me, Claudia and Denny. I really appreciate it. Claudia, it's been, a fantastic and, a long and excellent business relationship. And we really appreciate all the support and, what you do, but also, within our wonderful industry, of people that are putting out great products. It's a lot of fun, and the support is always appreciated. So in answer to the question, certainly, what's good about organic coffee? For us, the primary thing is really the taste. It's we really work hard and strive, and we believe we do come out with a consistently exceptional cup of coffee that is going to taste sort of, cleaner, better than, any conventional kind of counterpart coffee. In terms of the benefits, in organic coffee, it's much more than sort of growing without synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. The farmers that we work with, and we buy from, about maybe 9 or 10 different coffee origins. And I visited most, but not all of them over the years. And, you go down to these places and, it's these wonderful environments, rainforest environments where they're grown under a canopy of shade, and the farmers really care about the ecosystems in and around the farms. They're mulching the topsoil properly in order to really not have to use fertilizers, to, that gives it a longer root structure and just simply a much better cup of coffee. So it's about health, certainly. It's about health of the supply chain, you might say. It's the health of the workers that are on the farms. And it's the if part of the enjoyment of coffee, and that's really, what it's all about. Is we want people to just be enjoying a wonderful cup of coffee. Is if part of that enjoyment is, knowing where it came from and knowing that it was organically produced, that is part of the joy and the benefit as well. Yeah.
And it truly, your coffee truly speaks to the quality, not only of the end result, but the integrity that you have with the way you work with these farms around the world. And it's interesting. You are the only coffee that we have ever we have a full bulk display.
Yep.
It's front and center in our store. And over the years, anyone that tries that coffee, and we sample it out every day, will always come back and say, geez, it's the best cup of coffee I've ever had. And it's very interesting. People always notice, which is different from commercially raised beans.
Yep.
You don't get that oil slick on top of the coffee, nor
Yep.
do you have that aftertaste. So
Yep.
it's a very clean product through taste. And as I said, the integrity of how it's grown. So before we get into some other things, I'd like you to speak for a moment about shade grown and why that's so important.
Got it. Okay. So let me just quickly touch on, you talked about, our coffee and some of the differences of it. There's a certain depth of and full-bodied nature of a really good organic coffee. And again, that's what we strive to do.
Yes.
We also, there's within anything, there's there's high quality organics and there's low quality organic coffees. And, we avoid this sort of kind of like dirty kind of taste that you'll see sometimes if we see samples, but those are coffees that we don't use,
Yes.
So shade grown, hugely important for if you're a farmer and you want to produce organic coffee, it really needs to be shade grown. So if we, telling the long story, when sort of coffee as agribusiness started in, let's say, like the 1950s, which would be the heyday of, per capita coffee consumption, what was happening is that the farmers were being told, yep, get rid of your shade trees, plant the coffee in these nice rows, and, we can, we'll give you the fertilizers and you'll increase your yields. Okay. Right. So that's when, large areas of, Central South America, throughout the world, Indonesia, may have been, not clear cut, but, those shade, that shade that goes above the coffee tree was dramatically reduced. So in the areas that we're buying from, they're harder to get to, higher grown, and the farmers, recognize the value in having shade. So what happened then is in kind of the, let's call it the sort of early 90s, the Audubon came and they did a study about migratory bird species. And they, in turn, their facts laid out that the organic and shade-grown farms have a higher population of migratory birds.
Yes.
Okay. So this, what the shade does is it will sort of prevent the sun from bleaching out the nutrients of the topsoil. It provides a canopy, which is sort of better for birds and other insects and things like that.
Yes.
But it's not just one, general canopy. You might get different layers of flora and fauna above the coffee trees. And what that'll also do is, during their sort of foliage, leaf litter, the leaves are going to fall off once a year. That's going to mulch into the topsoil. In addition, you're not bleaching out nutrients of the topsoil, so the moisture retains longer. And mostly, in my opinion, you're providing habitat for, not just birds, but, other little critters, worms and slugs and things
everything
like
that lives there
that
right.
are fantastic for for the soils. In addition, you might see, like, if there are pests that are you don't want in the coffee tree, some of those birds might just naturally feed on those pests, and that's a good
Mhm.
pest reduction method. Yeah.
So, and I think that this is an important point you bring up because, as always, with things that are raised in respect and harmony to the environment, I think it's fair to say nature has wisdom. And
Hmm.
somehow commercial agri-farming has pulled so many areas of the world away from that natural balance, and they've introduced all these toxic chemicals, and it's affecting the soil and the everything living around it and the people working with it.
Yep.
So it's a really important aspect of why it's so important for more people to get back to farming properly, which we know how to do that, right? I mean, there's a lot of projects going on around the country, around the world, where people are really getting back to the way farming the way it's meant to be. And
Yep.
that's what you've always honored in these communities that you go to. So share a couple places that you gather these, that you work with these farmers. What areas around the world are you working in?
Sure. So one of the areas, I mean, that's kind of near and dear to my heart would be the Lake Atitlan region of Guatemala. We've been buying coffee there for, years and years and years. We've got a great relationship with the grower group there called Aposa. And, they do all the wonderful organic things that we've just been talking about. But in addition to that, we've done an extra project down there, working with the school in Sanchaj, which is this small village right down the slopes from where our coffee's grown. And then there's also a neighboring village too called Panabaj. And what we've done there is there was a school that was in disrepair. And so this is, over 10 years ago. And we decided, working with a charity group called Child Aid, I believe it's child-aid.org, and they're up out of the Pacific Northwest. And so they do work in Guatemala, specifically with schools. So what we've been able to do is kind of embrace these particular schools. And over the years, we've done some things where it's been, some physical repairs, but mostly it's been about setting up their library where, you go into a school in Central America and, you look around and just, there's concrete and things are really sparse. You don't see the supplies of, crayons and books and things like that we take for granted in the US. And so what we did is, working with this school, we helped build the library. We paid for all the the books to go into the library, and then it turned into some sort of reading programs where essentially the state, they're state schools, they're Guatemalan schools, but Child Aid comes in and they do additional things where they train the teachers on specific programs. And it's been really a model school for what Child Aid has done throughout Guatemala. So we've done it in Sanchaj, and then we've also moved it over to the neighboring village of Panabaj. So that's one particular thing that's been fantastic over the years.
Yes. And thank you for doing that. Thank you for giving back.
You
Because we
bet.
all are very aware of a lot of companies in this world are just taking, taking, taking. And it's so important to give back. So the other thing, you did a water project in one area, didn't you?
We
Help bring
did. Yep. We did a water project in Tanzania. Uh, this was a while ago. Sadly, we're no longer using a coffee from Tanzania, but at the time that we were, it was in the Mbeya region of Tanzania. And what we did is, there was an orphanage there where they had to, bicycle, a few miles to get, potable water. and we worked. This particular one was actually with the church group, and we were able to give them the funds to identify that there was an underground stream, and then we looked at all the numbers in terms of, okay, what does it take to dig the well and get the pumps and all that kind of stuff, and that's what we did, and so that basically brought fresh, clean water to this orphanage and the surrounding village. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's
Wonderful.
another nice one that we've done. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And then, I mean, other regions, Colombia, we buy from the northern part of the country, where we haven't done, specifically a give back project there. But really, when you think about it, what we do, which is, we're buying wonderful organic coffee, bringing it to market. I mean, that our day-to-day business, is a give back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes along with fair trade.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
yeah.
So fair trade is where you are giving a fair wage and better conditions to the people working those farms, correct?
Absolutely. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that they benefit from our purchases. So we work, we apply fair trade practices. So we ensure, that the farmers are getting a good price for their coffee, and in turn are using that, to help their workers improve on things. Maybe they take on other projects on their own, and continually sort of better the system, you might say. Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the next thing I'd like to ask you, so when these beans are picked, they're green, correct?
So what we do, so our facility, we have a roasting facility here in Massachusetts. We're near sort of Cape Cod, and that's where we do all the roasting of the green coffee. Okay. So there'll be two, I don't have any on my desk, but there'll be two green coffee beans inside a red cherry. Okay. So actually, if you look, behind me here, this is from a painting from Guatemala, where what the pickers will do is they'll pick the red cherry that has two green beans inside of it. At the beginning, the first part of the process, and there's a lot, they don't just pick it and then they're done at the producing countries. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So they'll pick it and they'll pulp off the red part of the cherry. It actually kind of tastes like cherry. And then that sort of skin gets put aside, and that will get mulched. That'll turn into like an enormous mulch pile. They'll add nitrogen to it. They'll add, the things that you might use with even in a nice kitchen compost, where you might add your banana peels or your orange rinds and things like that. So they'll produce a really deep, rich mulch that they then bring up annually and put around the base of the trees. So that's what they'll kind of use for their own fertilizer or as fertilization. So the cherry then the green bean on the inside of the cherry is actually, it's in a pergamino state where there's still a hull around it. That will go to the mill and go through like a separation process where you're separating the really high quality coffee from what might later get sold as like seconds or something like that. And that's going to different origins have different little tweaks that they might do to the process. But ultimately, you'll take the two beans in the pergamino state. Those will get washed and then dried. They'll get dried out in the sun on like a concrete patio. And then the pergamino shell that's almost like a peanut, that'll get milled off to then you get the green coffee, and that's what we roast.
And that's what wow, it's quite a process.
I'm holding up the Jim's Coffee, organic coffee, the double chocolate Claudia bought for me to try. And I'm very excited to try this. Jim, do your coffee, do you make it so it comes so you can use it in a Keurig, the little pod things, or is it just all ground?
So primarily what we sell is whole bean. We do sell some ground coffee, like the double chocolate that you're holding up there. That's a flavored coffee. So what we do is after we roast it, we'll add the flavorings, and it's a certified organic product. We add it's a natural flavoring that's suitable for certified organic. So we add that afterwards. And so that's what we do with the flavored coffee. So the Keurig thing, the little K cups, no, those are not something that we do. Certainly you get, a couple things. One is the coffee that they produce is really kind of subpar. The Keurigs, one of the challenges is home brewing is getting the water hot enough to really get a proper extraction of the coffee. So certainly you could take our coffee, grind it, and then you could use one of the not disposable.
Yeah, you can do. They have a little manual one you can do yourself, but it's not going to taste as good.
Well, then you'll be able to put it through the Keurig, but it's not going to taste as necessarily good as if you made like sort of like a Melita cone at home, where you're taking coffee from the kettle, or even like a really good store-bought Cuisinart machine or something like that. Obviously, they've made lots of strides in these things, and they get better and better. So
you mentioned it there for a second about the temperature of the water. How important is it? How hot does the water need to be in a standard coffee maker, or do you recommend certain coffee makers? Do you guys manufacture your own coffee maker? Because if you don't get that right, the taste of the coffee is going to suffer, right, Jim?
That's correct. You're not going to get if below. It really ideally should be like at 195 to 200 degrees, which is at boiling point. So it's sort of what if it's a kettle, it's like at the boil, as opposed to like tea, which is like you want a rolling boil. But if it's under that, let's say 185, you're just not going to get the proper extraction. So for instance, then if you're buying the Guatemalan that we roast to kind of like a medium roast, you're not going to get like the subtle nuances of the berry character and the milk and dark chocolate notes. It's still going to taste great, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to get the best extraction out of it.
It's not going to be as rich.
So have you ever thought about having a Jim's coffee maker, or one that makes your coffee the best available?
That's an enormous field. And when you look at whether it's a Cuisinart or even like a high-end Mr. Coffee, or there's another machine. It's a Dutch machine that we have at home. It's Technoverm. That's the machine I use at home. It's a very, very good pot.
Never even heard of that.
I have not either, but I'm writing it down.
What is it called?
VORM. And it's a beautiful design. The water gets hot enough, so it gets to boiling point. Yeah.
Now, I just want to ask some commercial companies that are creating flavored coffees. Yep. Those are not natural flavors, are they?
Generally, no. Yeah.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
And we have people that over the years when they switched from commercial coffee to yours, some people get headaches. Yep. Some people get symptoms. That's what we teach people. You got to find when you get a symptom, see if you can find what triggers it. And a lot of people that drink commercial coffee, and they might get headachy or whatever issues with their sinuses or their throat. Well, we encourage them, when you try clean coffee, changes the whole scope of.
And you touched on that earlier. That's worth circling back to, which is the acids and the stomach acids and things like that. And our coffee tends to be, it's very full of flavor, but it's mellow in that department. And
Yes.
you're not alone where, there's a lot of people that, come to us and say, Jim's is the only coffee I can drink, for those reasons. It doesn't
those
affect my
reasons, yes.
stomach. It's just well balanced and clean and good. Yeah.
And the other thing that we encourage people to do is to use non-chlorinated coffee filters.
Mm-hmm.
We sell them at the store, and of course, that's what we use to brew up your coffee every day. So, a lot of the
I
commercial.
never even thought of that. It's going to
Well,
affect the taste.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a fan of non-chlorinated paper products and
Yep.
coffee filters and all these
See,
things.
I'm a big fan of the flavored coffee. I love the flavored coffee. So I'm
Okay.
real excited about the double chocolate. Do you have other flavored coffees?
Yeah, we do. We also do a hazelnut and a French vanilla.
Oh, French vanilla. Big fan.
Yep. Very, very nice stuff. And actually, right now we're sort of at the tail end of the season on it. But we also do a pumpkin spice.
We had it. We sold it. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So
absolutely.
are all these coffees available on your website?
They are all available on our website. Yep.
And
so
of course, they're available at Health Foods by
And
Claudia.
of
Never mind. Forget that. Go to
Yeah, what are you
Claudia's.
talking about?
Let's get Claudia paid.
Yeah, we run the gamut. So, like the single origins, Guatemala, Ethiopia, Colombia. Then we've got blends, then the flavor, and then decaf too. I mean, another thing that's probably worth mentioning, all of our decaf is done using the Swiss water process, which is a natural and certified organic process that sort of gently takes the decaf out, or the caffeine out of the beans. Yeah.
I don't understand the whole decaf thing.
Well, I got to tell you,
I got to have full lead, baby.
For years,
you're the morning radio host.
Yeah. So I get up early. I got to have a jolt.
So I used to Colombian. I love the Colombian bean. I love Happy House. It's one of my favorite. Now, as I get older, I'm doing decaf.
We're about the same age,
but
I'm not there yet.
But the decaf is wonderful, and a lot of people have said it's the only decaf that they'll drink. So, I'm just curious, what's your favorite bean?
I'd like to, obviously I like them all for different reasons. And I tend to take home darker stuff for the weekends, which would be like our Sumatra French roast or our Index. But oftentimes, when I come into work, maybe I'll make a cup of that at home, and then I'll come in and either we might share like a Chemex of our Costa Rican or the Ethiopian or something like that. And to get those, bright notes and the beautiful nature of the single origin that is, of course, enjoyable, but also somewhat, transporting, to take you to Costa Rica and, kind of remember, I mean, for me at least, being on the farm and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
I never knew there was so much to coffee.
Yeah. Well, when we got on, Denny said, "Are we going to have enough? Is there going to be enough to talk about?" I said, "Trust me, there's enough to talk about." Yeah.
It's
hopefully people have learned from this.
Yeah.
They're going to go to Claudia's Health Food and they're going to buy Jim's coffee. All right, we're winding it up. What else do you want to talk about?
And just real quick, our 32nd anniversary celebration is this weekend and Saturday, Sunday, and we'll be giving away your cups of coffee at no charge. So that's part of the fun, one of the fun things that we do there. So thank you,
great.
Jim.
Congratulations, Claudia. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you. And to you as well. Thank you for what you're doing. It's very appreciated.
You bet. Absolutely. All right.
Appreciate you joining us, Jim. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take it easy.
Thank you.
We'll see you. All righty. All right, Claudia, now it's just you and I. Talk about the 32nd anniversary, which starts on Saturday and goes all day Sunday.
And
Tell
Sunday.
Everybody about it.
Yeah, we're very excited. And, it's something that we've literally done for 32 years. So the community looks forward to it, but also the reps, all these different companies that are all around the country that we have at our store and are very proud to carry. They send representatives to the store and you can talk to them directly, ask questions. They do samples of this and that, and so it's a fun weekend. Of course, there's a lot of food that we sample out, coffee, and we have all those wonderful gifts, the raffles. And I always say, no purchase necessary.
Right. So what time does it start tomorrow on
So
Saturday?
we 9 to 6. We are open Monday through Saturday, 9 until 6 p.m.
Okay.
Sunday is 11 to 5 p.m.
Okay.
And we'll be there from, I mean, we have practitioners coming in right at 9. We have a lot of people that'll come in.
So will there be like different presentations?
Yeah. So
there won't be any classes, right? Because
no,
you're going to be too busy. But
it's
you'll
like
have
a trade show.
Okay.
So we'll have tables set up, everyone's stationed where they're at. We have a lot of food,
A lot of free samples.
a lot of free samples. Yes.
All right. So that's all day Saturday and all day
All
Sunday.
day Saturday and all day Sunday.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're grateful. And just anyone that's been in business, there's ups and downs to business. And hopefully over the years you get a little wiser in how you do things. But at the end of the day, we're very, very grateful that the community has supported us through 32 years of our journey. So thank you so much, everybody. It means a lot to us.
All right. On a personal note, is Jim's coffee good for my blood type?
Actually, it's so funny. A's tend to do very well with coffee.
Oh, I know that. But what about this kind of coffee?
Oh, yeah. You're going to love this coffee.
Yeah, I tell you, since I've switched over and I started eating to my blood type, and like you said, I'm doing baby steps.
Your baby steps.
I have already lost 8 pounds.
Isn't
that amazing?
Well, but this is why we always talk about gut health. This is it, and how we fuel this machine. So we either fuel it properly and it functions properly, or we fuel it with a bunch of junk and then it doesn't work. And everybody says, "Gee, why do they feel crummy?" So you're doing wonderful things. I'm really proud of you.
The thing is, it's been so easy. I've cut out 90% of all red meat. I'm eating more vegetables and salads than I ever have.
Right.
I'm eating a lot of salmon, which I love, and fish. And I have cut out 90% of the processed sugar.
Yes.
That's it. No ice cream, no cookies, no Butterfingers, which kind of hurts. Anyway, but I feel so much better. So the trade-off is like, if I, and it doesn't happen very often. I thought it would be harder to do, because I love the sweets.
Yep.
Instead of grabbing, a handful of M&Ms, I'll grab a couple of grapes.
Yep.
And it satisfies me. And because I know if I'm eat something I'm not supposed to, I'm going to pay for it down the road of mental health or how I sleep. So
exactly.
I'm a big fan of eating to your blood type.
I'll tell you, it's very cool. And I'm thrilled that you're doing it and appreciate that you're sharing your experience with everybody.
Hey, 8 pounds and I haven't even been trying. And coming up on the holidays, that's a good thing.
That's
all
a
right,
very
Claudia,
good thing.
I will leave the last word to you.
Well, as always, it's a lot of interesting things going on out in our world. And we always just encourage everybody. Just, look at the blessings all around you. Stick with people that are very loving. Shine your light. And, health is a beautiful thing to embrace. So all of that said, peace.